The climate bill begins its debate in the Senate today.
Morning. I expect this legislation to pass.
Will you support the government's climate bill today?
I don't think you'll find that we're very happy. We don't think that they've negotiated with us very well.
Is the government open to any more amendments in the Senate?
You'll have to ask the Minister for Climate Change about the negotiations he's doing with the crossbench senators.
In just a few short days, the government has gone from warm statements of good intent and fellowship at the Jobs and Skills Summit to hard bargaining over actual legislative change.
Climate Trigger Bill 2022.
The very first thing we have to agree on is not to make the problem worse by opening up new coal and gas projects. And that is why a climate trigger law needs to be in place.
Action on climate change is back in focus, with the Greens moving today to amend environment laws to ensure new fossil fuel developments must factor in their future climate impacts, a so-called climate trigger.
The Minister needs the tools in order to make a proper assessment as to the damage that these projects will do.
Climate is likely to be the first debate to focus attention on the crossbench in the Senate, rather than the new Teal MPs in the House of Representatives. In addition to the Greens' push for a climate trigger, the three independent senators who hold the balance of power, Jackie Lambie and her colleague Tammy Tyrrell, plus ACT Senator David Pocock, want to put their own mark on the government's bill to target a cut in emissions of 43% by 2030.
I've been really vocal, saying that we do need to legislate something. I don't think 43% is enough. Scientists don't think 43% is enough, but it'll give us the certainty that we need. And so looking at that target, it's how do we ensure that that has integrity? And for me, that's adding more transparency and accountability. So I'm proposing that when it comes to our annual budget statement, we're actually looking at what effect will these new projects, these budget lines, have on greenhouse gas emissions.
While the Greens and Independents were shaping up on climate policy today, the opposition and the government were exchanging barbs on industrial relations.
Can the Treasurer guarantee that industry-wide bargaining and industrial action will not raise the cost of living for Australians?
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I just need to check, are we writing these questions for the member for Hume? The changes that we are working through in consultation with employers and with unions and with the broader Australian community is about seeking more and better agreements and not more conflict.
Just how much agreement was reached at last week's summit on the issue of multi-employer bargaining has been contested over the weekend, with the opposition claiming the summit was simply a case of unions getting what they wanted and employers being left in their wake.
I think business is extremely wary of the proposal around multi-employer bargaining. I think we do see this as a backdoor means to open up sector-wide industry bargaining again. That would be a significant step backwards. We don't see where the gains from that would be, particularly for smaller and medium-sized businesses.
One of the outcomes of the summit was saying let's look at how we fix bargaining, and instead of just having an enterprise-based system, let's add to that multi-employer or sector-based bargaining. This makes sense because only 1 in 7 workers at the moment are covered by an enterprise agreement.
The opposition has been warning that multi-employer bargaining would see strong unions run rampant in sectors such as construction. But the ACTU argues it is not about construction and mining, but sectors where there has not been strong bargaining, such as nursing and teaching.
There's plenty of businesses and unions that are quite comfortable with some of the enterprise agreements that they've been reaching over the last decade. And there's others that are saying, no, we really haven't been able to negotiate fairly and have workers access the system. So we should make it accessible to all.
Whatever the outcomes, those who attended the summit still think it was worthwhile.
I think it was very constructive. I think it did shift the needle. I think there are some important immediate results coming out of the summit, and equally there's a longer term agenda there that will now have to be worked on. Yes, there was a lot of sort of pre-scripted moves and maybe some outcomes that we knew were going to be outcomes, but I think it has brought people together. The ball is very much in the government's court now as to what they do. You know, we've heard a range of commitments, but we've also seen things like increased, shared paid parental leave, which had broad consensus, and the answer from government is it's too expensive.
Increasing paid parental leave was part of a push to reframe the argument about getting more women into the workforce as a productivity measure, not just a matter of gender equity, though there were very few material gains.
We've got the second worst paid parental leave scheme in the developed world, and we need to fix that.
Clearly, I think there's widespread understanding that this is not just social reform, it is economic reform.
Leadership, I think, is about listening, but you don't wait forever. You've got to make sure that you're prepared to act and to deliver what's in the interest of Australia.